Today, our topic of discussion when it comes to best ball is some late round targets. We've hit on a couple different ways to approach different positions, quarterbacks, tight ends, and the like over these last few weeks. But I want to get a little bit deeper into the weeds here. Talk about some late round guys. We'll draw the line roughly 14th round. I am going to kind of break that rule right off the jump here. Where are you with Jordan Love? That there's all this smoke, maybe even as we record, the Aaron Rodgers to the Jets deal could end up taking place. So TBD on that one. But as it stands, I think that the general consensus is that Aaron Rodgers will no longer be a Packer. Therefore, Jordan Love will be taking over. Obviously, they spent a high draft pick on him a few years back. His ADP checks in the 160s, I want to say. He's at 163 is his ADP over at Underdog. Is this something where you need to get in now before the Rodgers deal is officially done? And is that going to move his market much, or is it about where it's going to sit for the time being?
I have no idea really because I can't tell how much everybody else was. I can't tell like what the field was assuming about Rodgers or Love, and so if he's at 160 in drafts where only half of the people drafting think he's actually going to start, then that's going to go up. If it was like 8 or 9 people in a draft thought that, maybe that's not enough to move the needle. I don't really know. I also don't know what to expect about the general quarterback market. Like I think Anthony Richardson, and not to get too much into the combine stuff, like I think Anthony Richardson put himself on the map in a big way at the combine that as a high upside, obviously low floor, but high upside, new candidate. And that changes the market a little bit. It undercuts the position of some guys, maybe even including guys like Love. And it's not always the same in every draft, the quarterback market. Like I think it's generally true that the quarterbacks are going higher. It is generally true that the quarterbacks are going pretty much higher than any recent point. But I don't know how many people have picked up on the significance of the 20 round distinction versus the 18 and how you really should go 3 quarterback. I think anyway, it's obvious. Or as someone who thinks that I can pick running backs and receivers in the 20th round, I think you should obviously go 3 quarterbacks this year. In the 20 round format anyway. I thought there was a case to do it in 18 round even. So in 20, it's not a question to me. But sometimes you end up in drafts where you got people drafting the old way, like they're still trying to wait until like the 10th round, and it's always the 0 running back people because they'll take like 7 wide receivers in the first 9 rounds, and then they'll take their quarterback then. So I was in one draft the other day, and this is the only time this has happened out of like 10 drafts. But I took what did I do? I took Mahomes, Dak Prescott, and Deshaun Watson just because these guys weren't picking quarterbacks, and I was like, all right, well, you're starting Kirk Cousins then. And so that's not necessarily going to work out for me because I had to go thinner at like running back and receiver in terms of mid round selections. But a lot of drafts, more what has been typical for me has been in drafts, people taking like Trevor Lawrence in the 5th, Justin Fields in the late 3rd, Joe Burrow in like the mid early 3rd, stuff like that. And then guys like Goff going in like the 8th and the 9th as people try to get 3 starting quarterbacks, which again, I happen to think is the right way. So Love, it's pending those kind of 2 things to see like how the quarterback market solidifies and like how many people figured previously that Love would be the starter in Green Bay. And I was unsure. I generally assumed he would, but I don't think I've picked Love yet. And I'm somewhat curious. I'm not exactly I'm not like intrigued, but I'm I don't want to cross him off because I don't think Love is as bad, or at least I don't see as much reason to assume Love is bad as a lot of people do.
I definitely had started to kind of move him out of my radar going into last season, and kind of figured that the Packers would sooner move him than Rodgers. But, his little brief cameos last year was enough to kind of remind me why the Packers took him in the first place. His last season at Utah State wasn't very good, but his kind of standout season that got him drafted, kind of showed the kind of player that he can be. And, but I guess the bottom line question for you is do you think you'll have some shares? Because I think I will, especially at that current ADP. And again, I'm of the belief that maybe his ADP crawls up to the into the 12th round, something like that. So I think I'm going to have to take a look see.
Yeah, and I think because of this 20 round format on Underdog, there's how would you say this? There's less need to be concerned with like the quality of quarterback play as much as for your depth picks anyway, as much as just the playing time variable, especially if you're going three quarterbacks. And so what I mean by that is there's a certain class of quarterback who sucks but starts games anyway. And if I can have that guy as my third quarterback, and if there's 20 rounds so I can get these running backs and receivers that I still think I can, then I barely care whoever it is as long as they're playing. Like there's some kind of line, I don't want Matt Ryan last year. I don't want whatever disasters, the Carson Wentz or something like that. But guy like Kenny Pickett, I think he's terrible. I truly think he's awful. But I've picked him a few times because I don't know how else the Steelers are gonna. I don't think the Steelers are gonna bench him for anybody this year.
No.
And he does run a little bit, so I think he's going to be a train wreck in real life. But as the quarterback 3 on Underdog in the 14th round, I've picked him like 3 times because it's and Jordan Love fits into this category as a better version of Pickett to me. Like maybe not better in fantasy because I don't know. Like Love can throw the ball a little bit, Pickett can't. So that's part of why Pickett runs so much. Love is a more athletic player, even as a runner, I think, than Pickett. But I don't know if he's going to act on the run ability as much. So he might not be as good as Pickett in fantasy, but he's definitely the better prospect of the two. I think LaFleur is still a good offensive game planner. I'm kind of questioning his other areas of coaching, I guess, but I think he is basically a quarterback's dream. And the last times that we saw Love were on short notice starts. And especially that Chiefs game, it was like you could tell like he's not been practicing hardly with these guys. So it looked bad, admittedly, but I just don't think it's a basis to take away much at all. And so I'm kind of defaulting to my, the prior draft evaluation that I had on Love, which was like, I didn't know what he was. I didn't know what to think about him. I just kind of shrugged and was like, I don't know, top 40 pick, which Kenny Pickett was not to me. Sam Howell, good. I hope he does well. Wish him luck, but he's another guy in that range. I don't want to go into the year with just those two if I can get Love at the same price.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That definitely checks out. Let's quickly hit a couple other late round targets. I wanted to get your thoughts quickly on one, Michael Carter.
Yeah, Carter's a guy that I picked a couple of times. I don't think he's that great or anything. I mean, I was among those people who was like, "Shut the hell up!" when people were saying that Michael Carter is going to start over Breece Hall. Like that's so stupid, and yet it's just about as dumb that people seem to have concluded since then that Michael Carter will never play again. And I get it; it's because of Mike LaFleur and his little Zonovan Knight thing at the end of the year. I'm sorry, Zonovan Knight's not going to make the team. So if you're worried about him, that's not enough. You need to think the Jets are going to like draft another running back, which having taken one in the second round last year, having taken Carter in the fourth the year before that, I really doubt it. They might re-sign James Robinson for cheap, and I would worry about that because I know James Robinson was hurt last year dealing with a knee injury, and I don't know if that's like the development of something chronic. I don't know if it's related to the Achilles injury. But even though James Robinson was not on the injury report, he was definitely hurt last year with a knee issue. So that's the one thing. And if Robinson leaves, he can't hurt you in the 20th and 19th round. He's going to be there. He's going to play like 350 snaps for them or at least.
ADP 217. So, we're talking pretty late on in drafts, and, it kind of dovetails with the early round fade segment that we did where it's like, I can't quite get on board with Breece Hall coming off the ACL in the early third round. So therefore I think Carter could definitely have some utility. I think that he's, someone that could outperform his draft slot by a couple of rounds at the very least, maybe give you a couple of weeks where he ends up,
especially if they get Rodgers.
No, exactly. So the offense will in and of itself be a lot healthier. Who are a couple of other guys you've been grabbing some late round shares of?
I think Rashad Penny at about 178.3 is clearly going too late. Like there's a chance that he resigns with Seattle, which wouldn't be great for him. But if he did, he would split carries with Kenneth Walker. I know no one wants to hear it, but the one thing Penny does not have or hasn't demonstrated to this point is durability, which is in some way to say good luck because it's not like he's not like just going out there and having like the same pectoral muscle tear every year or something. Like that's like he's not doing Gerald McCoy stuff, He's going out there and he's tearing his ACL one year. He's fracturing his ankle the other. These are bad luck things, and they are not his fault. When he's on the field, he torches. There's not a question. I don't need to put a caveat or a condition on that. He torches when he plays. There's no exception to that. And 180, man, if he's a free agent, like this one guy, sorry, I don't remember his name. I'll try to pull it up here. Somebody proposed Brendan Deeg. I'm sure he's with some site or another. I just saw the tweet, and I love the idea of the Eagles signing Rashad Penny because he's going to be a lot cheaper than Miles Sanders, and Miles Sanders is not as good of a runner as Rashad Penny. If Rashad Penny signs with a team where he projects for as little as 400 snaps, he belongs in, I don't know, the 8th round, 9th round, something like that. So going Absolutely. Where he does, I try to draft him every single time. To backtrack to the quarterback late round standard a little bit, I still do like Howell, by the way. I still think Washington's going to start him, and I like him for fantasy because he throws deep and he runs. So yes. I like him quite a bit, despite the kind of like cooling on his market lately. I don't buy it at all. And then there's a couple rookies. I guess I'll say at each running back, receiver, tight end. Israel Abanikanda, I know he didn't run at the combine, but he's going to run at the Pittsburgh Pro Day, and then he's going to go in like, I don't know, the 10th round of underdog drafts. So buy him now so that you don't have to pay whatever his post Pro Day price is. At receiver, Tyler Scott hasn't seen a huge jump, or at least the draft that I did the other day, he was going the same as he did before the combine. But there were also rookie receivers going ahead of him who won't, and who people will realize won't soon. So I expect Tyler Scott to rise. You can get him in like the 19th, 20th. I don't think he can hurt you there. I really think you can approach like 40% volume for now anyway, and then taper off later when the price goes up. And at tight end, there's at least a couple guys, actually. I mean, I think Luke Musgrave is overrated, and I'm not convinced that he's going to be particularly good in the NFL. But in the 20th round, he's going to be a top 45 pick. That can't hurt you. And Dalton Kincaid, he seems to go – he's my kind of preferred, actually. If I take Travis Kelce, my preferred tight end backup is Dalton Kincaid because I don't have to get a backup until like the 15th or whatever. And when he's there, I mean, I'm a little skeptical of Kincaid as like especially a first round pick, but he's going to play. Like he's going to play for someone.
Yeah, no, I think so as well. So those are some interesting late round targets. I love that you framed a couple of those rookies by position there. But that's going to do it for our underdog segment. Again, use that promo code RWNFL. Get that 6-month subscription over at RotoWire. Get that deposit matched, the first deposit matched up to $100. Again, that promo code RWNFL.